In this video, I have some tips and techniques for solving the first 4 centers on big cubes. Okay, welcome to the advanced first 4 centers video. Just to reiterate what I discussed in the intermediate first 4 centers video, the biggest thing with solving centers is just to be completely freestyle in your approach. So adapt to the cases and situations that arise, whether that be solving centers with bars, T cases, solving from inside to outside, all those sorts of things as described in the intermediate video. In this video, I'm going to go into more different stuff, so talking about things such as ergonomics and reducing rotations, as I think that's more on the advanced end of things. So the keys to solving centers more quickly are to have solutions which are ergonomic and which reduce rotations. So solutions which you can execute quickly, which don't require a huge amount of regrips, and which don't involve too many rotations. Here's just a very simple example to get us started off. Let's say we're solving the final 1x5 bar on blue on this 7x7. We've got these 3 pieces here and these 2 back here. So they're all lined up for us perfectly. Now, an efficient solution, a move efficient solution, but one which requires a fair few regrips, is to do something like slice this down, move this one down, move it across, slice back up, and then insert like that. But a better solution which doesn't involve as many regrips would be to slice down to create this 1x4 and then grab it and finish off the 1x5 using this piece back here and insert like that. So in my mind, even though that solution was slightly longer, it avoided having to do things such as slice and wide moves simultaneously, which can be really, really painful in terms of the number of regrips that are involved. So generally speaking, you want to make your life as easy as possible in terms of the finger tricks and regrips that you're doing. So for example, here we've got these 2 and these 3 back here as our last 1x5 bar. We don't want to be doing something like M prime, like 3M prime U2 M, like that. We can just do wide arm moves to finish it off. So that's the general principle that you should sort of be applying to solving the first 4 centers on 6 and 7. So just a quick note on inspection for 6x6 and 7x7. You of course want to be color neutral, but as you're getting more advanced, you want to be planning out more of your first center, and particularly on 6x6 and 7x7, a good benchmark for this is to try and inspect for the first 2 bars. And in order to be able to inspect for the first 2 bars, you need to decide on your starting color pretty quickly once you start your inspection. And this is something that is kind of an intuitive process and you'll get better at with time and practice. So for example, for me, it's just a matter of scanning the cube, quickly identifying something, and then sticking with that and trying to plan as much as possible. So like on the 3x3, if you're color neutral, you'll understand that sort of process. So it's generally a matter of, going with the first thing you see. So I see this, 2x2 on blue, this 2x1 here. And so I'm immediately thinking, okay, I can use this to create this, this, and this. And all I need to do is plan out another 1x2. And then I've got a pretty solid start on the blue center. So as I mentioned at the start, one of the things you really want to start thinking about a bit more is avoiding rotations. This is especially useful for your first 2 centers where the pieces are going to be in all sorts of different places. You don't want to just be rotating without even thinking about what you're doing. So you want to be mindful when you're doing rotations. And one of the things that I see kind of more intermediate cubers get into is this sort of rhythm. When they're solving the first or second center, what they'll do is they'll rotate using a Z rotation, solve a 1x4 bar, rotate back with a Z prime, insert it, and not even look at anything else, just do a Z prime again, and then go on and solve, another bar. So we've got these 2, this one and this one, and then rotate back, insert, okay, straight away rotate, etc. Rotate back, insert, and then rotate again. And that's not going to be particularly optimal because in this using this sort of procedure, you're doing the rotation no matter what, and that will lead to definitely unnecessary rotations. So one of the things you want to get into is for your first couple of centers, particularly your first center, you don't want to be, rotating up to insert this bar to here, right? Because let's say you're solving your first center, pretend this is unsolved. You don't want to be rotating and moving it up like that. You just want to be doing something like a D prime like that. For your second center, it's a little bit more tricky, particularly if you're solving maybe the second center on the right-hand side. So over here, you can do things like, U prime R to U to insert the second center, to insert more bars over here. This is another thing that's also useful, is being flexible in terms of whether you do a Z rotation or a Z prime rotation. So let's say we're in this situation and I see we've got this piece and this piece. Well, if I do a Z rotation, if I do a Z prime rotation, I don't see any new pieces at all. I just see the pieces that I've already got. Whereas if I do a Z rotation, I know this piece is here, this piece is here, and now these two are up here. So I get a lot more information by doing a Z rotation in this situation, as opposed to doing a Z prime rotation. In this same vein, it's sometimes even slower to do, a full Z rotation, solve a bar, and then Z prime, and then insert it. For example, here, we can just very easily make this final 1x4 bar on white using these two pieces and these two by just doing U prime R U like that. And that's something you really want to get comfortable with as well. And then you can insert it without doing any rotations at all. So after solving your first two centers, and ideally when you're solving kind of the final 1x5 bar of your second center, you should be trying to look ahead a little bit. But after you solve those first two centers and put them on the left and right hand side, you don't want to spend too much time kind of overanalyzing and doing rotations all around the cube to try and determine what's going to be the most efficient third center. However, you do want to be kind of completely neutral as to which color you want to solve, so not preference anything. So you don't want to necessarily preference, yellow just because this yellow center is on the front, or orange because it's on the top here. In this case, I see I've got these three 1x2 bars on red, and that's going to be quite an easy case to form a 2x5 bar in this position. And that's another thing you want to get used to as well and practice, is particularly after the first two centers, or although it can be done for the first two centers as well, is building, for example, 2x5 bars on a face which isn't necessarily the face of the color where the 2x5 bars are. Sorry, that was a bit convoluted, but here's what I mean. So, we've got these three 1x2s. I see, okay, I can make a 1x2 with this one and this one, like that. And then luckily enough, this 1x2 was here. So I can finish off the 2x5 like that. And here's what I mean. The 2x5 is actually connected to this yellow center here. And we don't necessarily have to, attach it right away to this red center, because it might be easier for us to, create the 1x5 bar in the middle of the red center without attaching this first. So another little tactic is you want to try and get free pieces where you can, or close to free pieces. So in this case, we've got this 2x1. We want to attach it down to this 2x3 here. And we can see that it's going to be pretty easy to actually attach these two corner centers to this 2x1, like so, to create a 2x4, a 1x4 like that, and give ourselves this T case, as opposed to just inserting this 2x1 and using those, few extra moves, which are going to be actually really easy to execute because it's just R and U, gives ourselves two extra pieces. And from that, we can attach these two obliques together and then finish them off, and that gives us a 3x4. Another thing that's going to be quite important in terms of helping you reduce the number of rotations you do in your solve is having some sort of working memory of where pieces are around the cube and using that to deduce where other pieces are. So here's an example of this in practice. So let's say we're finishing off this 1x5 bar for blue, our second center. We've got this piece and this position where it needs to go. So I do a U2 and then slice down. And as I slice down, I'm noticing, okay, this piece obviously remained here. No further blue pieces were added to this face. So what I'm going to do then is rotate here and then insert it. So do U, R, U2, R prime to take these two out. As I'm doing that, I'm trying to have a little bit of a look over on this right-hand face to see this blue piece. So I know that these two are together. The outer middle center is here, and this corner center is down here. And because these two come down here, what I can do is do an R prime and an L prime. So without using any rotations, doing an R prime and an L prime. And what that does is aligns this one and this one to these two. And then I know that the final blue piece is going to be on the back here. So what I can do is rotate something like this and see that, okay, this one is over on this face. So what I'll need to do is do a U2, and then they're all in alignment with each other. So I can do something like that, rotate and insert. One very important part of solving 6x6 and 7x7 centers is differentiating between oblique center pieces. So by now, you should be able to very easily and very quickly differentiate between obliques on a single face. So for example, here, notice that these two are in the same orbit and can be replaced with one another. But this one, with respect to these two, is in a different orbit. The challenge now is to be able to do that very quickly across different faces. So recognize, look at this piece, this oblique piece, and this oblique piece, and figure out whether they're in the same orbit instantly. And this is something that takes a fair bit of time and practice, but you can, try and quiz yourself and test how good you are at recognizing whether obliques are in the same orbit. So, for example, quickly just see this one and this one. Okay, how will I determine whether these two are in the same orbit? Well, the way I think about it is I can visualize that this one would go up here, and therefore these two are not in the same orbit. Quickly determining between this one and this one, I can see that doing a U prime would mean that these two can be replaced with one another. Little tricks like that. You can develop your own sorts of things, but oblique differentiation is a very important skill. Another thing to consider, mainly after solving the first two centers, is to what extent should you try and preserve blocks of pieces and do sort of more of a half centers approach. This can definitely be done on 6x6 more easily than it can on 7x7 because of the absence of this middle layer and the fixed center. On 7x7, I tend not to do it at all really, unless it's very, very easy, but this may be to my detriment, so it's something to definitely experiment with as well. So if you have something that's very easy to preserve whilst you're solving, the final 1x5 or the final 2x5s on a center, then by all means go ahead and do it. The main thing to think about when considering whether to preserve pieces is just to think about the costs and benefits. So how much work does it take to preserve pieces as opposed to just going ahead and solving what you're already solving straight away without preserving it? And how much benefit do you get from preserving those pieces as opposed to just hoping that something decent shows up automatically after you solve the center that you're currently working on. One thing to keep in mind specifically for 7x7 solving is if you're solving with bars, is to try and solve this inner 1x5 bar as early on as possible. Obviously, there will be certainly situations where, no pieces of this inner 1x5 bar show up easily, and it's advantageous to, solve two outer bars or solve bars like this. But if you get yourself stuck into situations like this, whereby you have, pieces stuck in this 1x5 bar, that's going to be very troublesome and will definitely slow your solves down. So if you are going to leave this 1x5 bar to later on in the center, then you definitely want to avoid getting into situations like this where there are pieces stuck in it.